Hey guys, I'm going to go over just a few sort of things to consider when you're working with your illustration and type. Um, a lot of times when I'm working with younger designers, they tend to want to take their illustration that they did and make it as big as possible, right? And the only problem with that is a lot of times the illustration may not be a good enough quality to bring that much attention to it. So some of the things that I like to do with this type of project is um, I'll actually create space for the illustration using my type. So this is about youth-led democratic innovation. So I have a series of things going on where there's youth talking to each other. They are demonstrating. They are creating information. It's all part of a project I worked on this summer. But if you can kind of see, I don't actually have that much illustration in here. But what I do have is I am using, in this case, a series of shapes that sort of carry on throughout the actual story. So you can sort of see some over here as well. So what I want to sort of go over is just how to integrate your headline with your image. So in this case, I'm going to go with a primarily white sort of look. And I encourage you to look at using white more than than you do. It always seems to be like the last thing you think of, but in design, white layouts are very attractive. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to bring up my character. I'm going to bring up my headline. So here's my double page spread. And I'm just going to pop this up. So with this one, I'm going to try a couple different things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find a comfortable space for it on my first page. So I'm just going to bring my text down a little bit. So this will be a little bit more understated. You're probably wondering, oh, what's 2? 2 is actually the chapter of this book. So I'm going to sort of find an area. I'm just going to bring this down a little bit in size. Sort of bring that down in size a little bit. Bring it over a bit. I try not to crop people's heads off if I can. So then we're sort of starting to deal with some interesting areas. I'll move that around a little bit. So if I do this type of thing, one of the things that I'm going to do is relate my text to it. So you can sort of see there's a little subhead here that says, what is youth-led democratic innovation? There's an intro and there's my copy. So I'm probably going to try and find a way. So I might line up something like that, or I might find something, and in this case, probably going to line it up and have my second page start like that, give myself some more text to work with, and then I may just bring this down. So in this case, just going to scale it down a little bit, and I want my image to relate somewhat to what's going on with my type. So I might do something like that. Let's see if I can get these two figured out. It looks a little bare, so I might just bring this back up, and I'm going to line it up with this. So yeah, a couple different ways. So using a primarily white layout, not super happy with it. Give that a little bit more space. Then if you have a secondary image, let's just crop this a bit. So let's pretend we only did one little illustration. So my supporting image might kind of balance off of this one. So you sort of see, I'm going to not only line it up with this line of this column, but I'm also going to try and relate it to my headline. So I'm just going to preview that. Preview. I'm going to see how these two things relate. I'm going to bring this over, and then might bring this down a little bit. There we go. Bring this down. So you can start to see lots of elements to balance off here. I'm going to shorten this up a little bit so we get some proper white space. I'll fix all the sort of funny things about it. So once I have that, you can sort of see what I'm trying to do is balance off our page here. So I've got a big illustration, kind of headline, but then I've sort of rebalanced it out, because if I do that, it seems a little bare, but it's not bad. But the secondary illustration kind of plays on that first one. Once I do that, I can decide, well, you know, maybe I want to take this and, you know, pop a color behind it, or, you know, give it something like that, give it a little bit of, gives it a little bit of weight right away, although those colors are a bit atrocious. You know, maybe I want to do something like that where I give it some boldness. I probably wouldn't make it black, but, you know, I absolutely could flip these things around a bit. So you can sort of see how things change really quickly, right? So you went from a very kind of white layout to now having a little bit of weight on this side. Now I could do something where I bring this right down. So in this case, I'm going to just flip things around a little bit more as I'm doing this. Get that out of the way. Give this guy a little bit of room. I feel like Bob Ross. Here we go. So in this one, I'm really going to set this up more of a floating illustration, but in this case, I might do something where I really play off the play the headline off of the actual illustration itself. I'm going to take this and just see if I can kind of offset it so I get past that curve and then hang it. And the unfortunate part is there's not quite enough gray area on there to do that. Just going to send that to the back. Oops, send this to the back. So that didn't quite work. But what I could do is I'm just going to pull these over to the side a little bit. Now, in this case, do something a little bit more where it's a little bit more classically framed. So do that. So if I do something like that, what I'm probably going to do is then maybe look at bringing my intro copy over to this side. So I'm going to take that, and this again will take some of the pressure off the illustration itself. So I'm just going to pump that up a little bit. I want to keep it away from our gutters. And I'll fix the hyphenation a little bit. So if I do something like that, then what I'm starting to do is I'm starting to get a little bit of pattern going on. So I have white and white, which is, now I can work with that. So if I do bump that up a bit, maybe I take this up, do this sort of thing. Youth-led democratic innovation. Let's just make sure this is white, and then I really bump this up. Just going to open that up. If I do that, then make sure that these kind of things line up. I could pull it off this way or move it over this way. Maybe I blow it up a little bit. So I could do something like that. Again, the gray doesn't work too nicely. It doesn't have enough space up there, but I could do something along those lines. I'll get rid of this. Bring my two up near the top. so then if I do that, you know, I could even bring this up over here. If I do that, then yeah, I mean, there's some relationships going on here. So if you look at the way now we're bringing that illustration so it lines up there. Oops. So a little bit different, right? So now we're on gray. We sort of have our type on this side. And then finally, let me try, I got 10 minutes. I'm going to try and get this done in 15 minutes. I'm going to try one more thing here. So this time I'm going to make this big. So I'm going to really blow it up. I'm going to have some really uncomfortable areas going on. Pull this down, bring this up. So you want, if you're bringing a type or illustration across the gutter, you want to make sure that there's no real critical information in there. In this case, it's not too bad. Let's see what else we got here. I might actually try and use all the space here. So I'm going to run those like that. So I might actually try and do my headline right in here. I can still do my intro copy over here if I like, or I can do it. Let's just try something a little bit different. I'm going to give this gray just like I did with the other side. So we have a play gray. Now I'm going to look at doing this as sort of 2 columns. Let's see if this works. Give this a little bit of space there. So I've sort of built these illustrations as modules so they can sort of interact with each other, be used separately or together. So let's just try and, what we want to try and do is just create a little bit of space for that headline to sort of sit by itself. I'm just going to bring that down a little bit in size. Got 3 minutes, so I'm limiting myself to 15 minutes here. Just going to bring this down size a bit so it's not so bulky looking. Now the one thing I might do here is I've got some nice grays going on. Spacing is looking okay. Obviously it needs a little bit of work. My 2 is going to be too close to there, so I might just drop it into like that type of thing. Now if I'm going to do something like that, one of the things I could consider is, let's just make this a dark charcoal, is that I could look at this and I could sort of look at pulling one thing out. So I could look at doing that. So maybe I make that pink. I just want to make sure, let's make that a brighter pink. There we go. So you see, then what happens is basically we have our illustration. We still get our headline, intro copy, start. Not crazy about this space down here, but if I wanted to, I could go in and again play around with what I have there. Let's just bring this down a little bit. See what that looks like as white. So again, now you see what it looks like as white. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to sort of start your where your illustration goes, how it relates to text. So I try and play around as much as possible when I first start the project. So yeah, I look forward to seeing what you guys